Well, this last week of 2022 sure seems to be filled with a lot of conversations about new Nintendo hardware and a lot of conversations about The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And of course, I'm not talking about just my channel. I'm talking about pretty much everyone, everywhere, on YouTube, on Twitter, and now apparently also on Reddit. We're talking about Switch 2s, we're talking about Switch Pros, we're talking about The Legend of Zelda. For me, I've been discussing if it's like the swan song title for the Nintendo Switch before something else new happens. There's been leaks and rumors and all of these things. And now we come to this newest piece of news that's got everyone talking today. And it's that apparently over on Reddit, and I'll link this stuff below for you guys to check out, someone has shared what seems to be fairly convincing photos of a Nintendo Switch OLED Tears of the Kingdom edition. Now, I am going to show you some of these photos in a quick second here, but one thing I do want to say before we look at them together is that this is the kind of thing that I think most of us thought had a great chance at happening anyway. Nintendo, very typically, in the Switch era specifically, likes to release new branded versions of the Switch that match one of their newest, biggest releases. They've done it with Pokemon, I think, a few times. They've done it with Animal Crossing. It's actually the one that my wife owns. And there's probably another one or two out there that I might even be brain farting. But for sure, Animal Crossing and Pokemon have had that happen. And so with Tears of the Kingdom coming less than 5 months away, we know it's the big title for 2023. As I have discussed and other people have discussed, it might be one of, if not the very last big title for the Switch before maybe new hardware, next gen or pro or whatever, would actually come out. And so when we analyze this, and even some possible patent filings from weeks ago kind of hinted at this, maybe there was a chance that Nintendo wasn't going to release like a Switch 2 with Tears of the Kingdom. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think a next-gen or an upgrade thing might be at the end of next year. I don't think it's going to be ready by May 12th. That's my current guess. And so all of these signs made a lot of people think that they would probably just make a rebranded Switch that has Joy-Cons and like plating on the back of the Switch that match up with Tears of the Kingdom, which is what seems to be happening if any of this is even to be believed. And of course, there's a lot of reasons to think that this could be fake. But anyway, I don't want to bury the lead anymore. Let's quickly take a look at these few pictures that seems to be floating around. So what's interesting is that there seems to be 3 photos, and 2 of them, I like this by the way, seem to feature the box for the Switch that shows The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and that key art, and it shows what the Joy-Cons and the dock would look like and how it would match up with that Zelda art. And then one of them also shows the Joy-Cons up close. So, you know, looking through these pictures here, I might just cycle them a few times so everyone can look them over. The box is one of the most interesting things because to me, the box represents both the most convincing element and also probably the easiest thing to fake. So it's really hard for me to know, at least personally, how I feel as far as believing this, because it's a combination of how obvious it is as a business choice. It makes sense for Nintendo to do this. It lines up with things they normally do, and it looks convincing. But again, in the world of the internet and internet clout and people faking crap on Twitter and on TikTok and YouTube and everything, and this has been happening for years in gaming, all of this stuff, including these pretty sweet-looking Joy-Cons, it's very easy to fake these things nowadays, and we've seen enough examples that people are willing to go through pretty huge efforts just to fake stuff. And so it's tricky to know exactly what to say or feel about this right now. I even honestly just laid out most of my kind of feelings about it and the 2 different sides that I come at this from, right? Again, I'll repeat, it makes a ton of sense. Nintendo does this stuff all the time. Tears of the Kingdom is the exact kind of game we would think Nintendo would make a special version of the Switch for. It's just a thing they've done before. It makes sense for this game. However, making a fake box that matches the style from any cardboard box you can get, and people with all the different printing capabilities that we can have in our homes, right? Making a fake box that matches the kind of style Nintendo would make a Switch box in, very easy to do. You take that Zelda art, you do some Photoshop on the dock and the Joy-Cons, you can easily make a picture of a box and take a picture of it, and it's gonna look pretty convincing. And again, this does look very convincing. Now, when it comes to the Joy-Cons, a little bit trickier, but mark my words, people are just as willing and capable of faking this as well. I mentioned this earlier today on Twitter, and I've referenced this several times in the past when it comes to things like this. And the number one go-to I have is the famous Nintendo NX controller from years and years ago. I mean, this is Nintendo NX, right? So I don't know when exactly this was, but this was pre-October 2016, because it was on that date that we saw the Switch and knew that the NX thing just wasn't that, right? But there were patents that showed this weird, like, cylinder style kind of touchscreen controller for the NX, and then someone went through great efforts to make an extremely convincing 3D printed model that just matched that patent drawing 100%. And that 3D printing was so quality, it looks like it's real glass on the surface of these things. They were doing the rounds, and while definitely some people thought they might be fake, it tricked a lot of people, and I didn't know how to feel about it until the person or people behind it. I feel like it was a few people. I can't remember if it was one guy or a few guys or whatever, but what I do remember is for sure the person or people behind it came out, they made a video showing what they did to fake and 3D print it and confirmed that it wasn't real. But it looked so convincing. You know, it took a ton of time and effort and careful planning and maybe even money, and they did it just to trick people. So if people could make this, people could definitely make this and make it look real, even though it's fake. There was another famous thing in the Switch era, probably 2017 or 18, before the official Switch Online launched and we knew what that was going to look like, where some kid who was like, I don't know, maybe 13, 15, 16 years old. I don't remember. I feel like he was pretty young, like a teenager. Did an amazing job faking Switch menus with the sounds and the clicks and the beeps and the navigations, and it looked like the Switch Online infrastructure was going to have these abilities to do all these profiles and do these cool things that ended up not at all matching what Switch Online looked like by the time it released. And it was another situation where eventually that kid came out and said, yep, I faked it, but it looked real, and you know he spent a lot of time doing it, right? So these things, the kid faking the Switch Online and the guys making the 3D printed NX controllers, and then don't even get me started on the freaking Grinch League, right? These things people will go to great efforts to fake. And so it is worth noting, this person seems to be holding, you can see the physical Nintendo Switch OLED in some of these pictures, right? You can see the box, and below it, you can see a Switch. And it seems to be that this person is like, I've got my hands on this now. Now, if they're making a Switch OLED to release alongside of Tears of the Kingdom in May, I'm sure they have a lot of them being made and being completed in a factory somewhere, so it's not impossible for a finished Switch OLED that has the Tears of the Kingdom branding on it to exist, but it's still 5 months away, so it also seems kind of early, right? I'm not going to pretend to know the inside details of the manufacturing and what it looks like when plants are mass producing video game hardware and PC hardware. I don't know how far ahead Nintendo or any company plans for these things. This might be the exact time that it's normal for there to be warehouses filled with already completed Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLEDs, and someone who works there could have just grabbed one, opened it up, and taken some pictures. Maybe that's already happening, or maybe it's way too early for any completed boxes and completed Joy-Cons to exist, which would then show that these pictures would very likely be fake, if that's the case. So I can't say definitively. We're just looking at the pictures that are out there. A lot of people are excited. A lot of people are believing it. And as I've said, it definitely does look convincing, but we don't know the timing. I want to feel like it is too early for these things to exist and someone to be able to take a picture of it. But again, I don't know. I don't work in this industry, so I can't say for sure. I just want to get it out there and have you guys hear me say it so you can kind of consider what I'm saying and maybe form your own opinions. At this point, time will tell. The game is less than 5 months away, which means, in theory, if this exact Switch OLED we're looking at is real, it's also less than 5 months away. Maybe they're planning a Switch OLED, or even a Switch 2, you know, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that is going to happen, but maybe they're planning a new piece of Nintendo Switch hardware for Tears of the Kingdom, and maybe this isn't it. Maybe both are true at the same time. We are getting the new Switch for the new Zelda, but it's not these pictures. Maybe these pictures are fake, but the real thing does exist somewhere else. So all of it could be true, half of it could be true, none of it could be true. That's the fun but also frustrating part of discussing things like this. And so it's a big deal. People are talking about it. I wanted to add my kind of 2 cents and thoughts into the conversation because it's interesting. And so I guess 5 months from now, we'll know if these pictures are real or fake.